Namaskar. I am Devender Dhingra. As some of you would be knowing that I have written a book titled The Unanswered, which is about addressing controversial issues in Indian astrology and ancient astronomy texts. This book is titled The Unanswered, since this is an attempt to resolve the long-pending issues that keep on bothering every astrologer who is at a beginner level or an expert level. I would explain to you briefly about my book, since there are apprehensions about my book, with some people even calling it a bluff, strangely. So I thought it better to put on paper some introductory information about my book. The first two chapters of the book are just the introductory chapters, since they are listing the issues that are addressed in the book, and also that why might we succeed with the wrong choices altogether. The next section of the book, I have divided this book into two parts. Part first is about Anamsa majorly, and part two is about many other issues of Indian astrology. The part first consists of 12 chapters, and starting with the number 3 chapter, which is on Anamsa puzzle, which is introducing the Anamsa in detail, but bit differently than what you see in other books or other articles, followed by the 4th chapter, which is about various Anamsas, their roots and pitfalls. Here I have listed all the popular Anamsas, their positives and their negatives both. I just hinted here Chandraharya Anamsa, because this is the Anamsa which troubled me a lot, I will put it this way. And when I just understood it properly, I found that there is a major error in this Anamsa, because it says that it's all about Surya Siddhanta, but all the work and mathematics involves about the modern tropical year length and modern sidereal year length. And in the end, it ends into a complete erroneous Anamsa, because nowhere Surya Siddhanta year length comes into picture. In fact, even Moola star, which the author claims to be basing his Anamsa on, is also not from Surya Siddhanta. So this is totally erroneous Anamsa from, as far as my feedback on this Anamsa is concerned, then you can learn in this book exhaustively. Moving on to the next chapter, which is about true duration of precession cycle. Here I have listed that why modern precession cycle length can also not be guaranteed, and because everything is an assumption. Many things in astronomy work on assumptions. It might be true or it might not be true. And then we move on to understanding Surya Siddhanta. Here I have listed some of the Surya Siddhanta takes on its followers and why it can't be met as per the trends available, followed by the chapter on questioning the Surya Siddhanta year length, which, as we know, that some say that it's a tropical year length, which is very erroneous. Some say that it is a sidereal year length, which is off more than 3 minutes from the modern sidereal year length, and so on. And I have, in fact, the crack that why Surya Siddhanta year length is also not that off from the truth. The chapter which is on why did Surya Siddhanta indicate 27 degree of Anamsa, here we list the major shlokas from the chapter 3, which are about precession, 3.9 to 3.12. The first shloka, which we, as we read in the translation, which anyone can read, we find that the circle of asterism falls back round about 30-20s evolutions in a yuga, and when we calculate Aragna and apply this yuga figure, we get something, a remainder, and when we multiply that remainder by 3 and divide by 10, then we get an oscillating ionms of plus minus 27 as per shloka 3.10. And 3.11 and 3.12 shlokas tell us that how when these ayana correction and above, in fact above two corrections 3.9 and 3.10 are applied to the calculated values as per chapter 2 of Surya Siddhanta, we would match it to the observed world. Strangely, there are people who don't understand even chapter 1, and that is a very puzzling thing, because chapter 1 clearly mentions about Bhagna. Bhagna is when the revolution is completed at the end of Revati. So when we are in the Nakshatra world, it's all about the Nakshatric revolution, a revolution which has to be completed by the end of Revati. So it has to be a Nakshatra linked revolution, and these shlokas are clearly pinpointing that how there will be a different tropical year and different Nirayana year altogether. The first question that comes to mind looking at these shlokas 3.9 and 3.10 is that where has this revolution of starry sphere gone? We understand in 3.9 shloka that circle of asterisms fall back so much of revolution in a yuga, but we are applying only the ayan chalan that is defined in 3.10. We have forgot about this revolution of starry sphere altogether. And this is the mistake done by all the commentators of Surya Siddhanta so far, and this book is the first in the world which is pinpointing that this starry sphere revolution is also to be applied onto the calculated values in the chapter of Surya Siddhanta. And in fact, none of the commentators or even the Surya Siddhanta followers have addressed this starry sphere revolution, the circle of asterisms revolution, in any of their work or any of their following. So when we apply this new learned fundamental or new learned crack, I would say, we find that Surya Siddhanta year length, when is compared on to the modern tropical year length, and when the complete revolution, Nakshatra revolution is applied, we find that Surya Siddhanta year length is just off by 0.00007 days. That's hardly 6 seconds compared to the modern. Then we learn in next chapters about some oscillations and some new fundamentals that we learn in the book, followed by the approach, what shall be the approach to finding the Ayanamsa, and we can very well look forward to resolving the Ayanamsa issue altogether. Then there is another method, Apsis method, which I would not discuss in this introductory. I will straightway come to chapter 14, which is what is Ayan Chalan. Ayan Chalan, this is a very important chapter which will list that why we call it Ayan Chalan and not Vishwa Chalan. I mean, when we say that procession is all about the equinox procession, so why the ancients did not call it Vishwa Chalan? Why they were so keen on Ayan Chalan altogether? So I would just brief about this chapter. And this chapter we are using the formula that we learn in Surya Siddhanta, that sine of longitude, sun's longitude, or we can sine of sun's longitude is equal to sine of declination divided by sine of maximum declination. This is the simplest form of the formula. So the formula is not put as it is in Surya Siddhanta, because Surya Siddhanta terminology is based on different sign calculations. So in the modern formula style, I have put it that sine of sun longitude is equal to sine of sun declination divided by sine of maximum declination. And we learn in the book that the range of oscillation specified in Surya Siddhanta is from minus 17.1887 to plus 17.1887 degree. And when we apply this oscillation onto the obliquity, the maximum obliquity of the modern world, which is supposed to be at 24.5 degree, we get that minimum obliquity as per the formula, as per the oscillation of 17.1887 on both sides. We get that minimum obliquity has to be 22.24 degree as per the formula above of sine longitude is equal to sine declination, that's divided by sine of maximum declination. So we get a range of 22.24 degree to 24.5 degree as per the modern obliquity maxima of 24.5 degree, which is very close to the modern range of about 22.1 degree to 24.5 degree. So this is the reason that why they were so keen on Ayan Chalan and not Vishwa Chalan. In fact, in this chapter you will learn that why it is called Ayanamsa and not Vishwamsa, and since this is all about solstice point, that's Ayan. Next, I will say that there is the part 2 of the book, which is addressing the various other issues. The prime ones, as we understand while we follow astrology, Indian astrology. So 2 circle or 1 circle, that is again once we learn that some people talking about using both tropical as well as the Narayana circle in Indian astrology. So this is all about explaining that why it has to be 2 circle or 1 circle for Indian astrology. Then the next chapter is again very important chapter about the year length for Kshatri Dasha. There are enough quotes, enough sport, logical as well as academic sport provided in this chapter that will list that why year length has to be, that is what we find in this chapter. And the next chapter is about which Bhava chart to use. Here I have listed all the popular Bhava chart. Those who follow KP astrology, I have also listed Placidus in this. In fact, other unequal Bhava charts are also mentioned. And here we pinpoint that why traditionally which Bhava chart is the right one and which is also logically the right one, considering all. Maybe KP astrologers will find it tough to understand or tough to acknowledge, I would say, that why Placidus is also not the best unequal house system. So the next chapter is about geocentric or tapocentric, or some call it merucentric. So let's understand that what shall be the traditional approach for Indian astrology, followed by what shall be the node, true node or mean node. And then about sunrise time, what shall be the right sunrise time for ascendant, Hora Lagna, Ghati Lagna, etc. The chapter 21 is about calendar reforms versus astrology. Calendar reforms, as you understand that there are some people who are so keen on calendar and Panchanga that they want to put it in, I will say that reimpose it on to the Indian astrology altogether, and they keep on blaming astrology world for the deviation of calendar. We learn in this chapter that why and how much astrology shall be keen on, or astrology shall be bothered about all these calendar reformers. And the major reason is that Panchaga or calendar is just a small part of Ganita or Siddhanta, and while Ganita and as well as Phalita, that we call predictive astrology, as well as the astronomy, is a very vast subject compared to Panchanga or calendar. So this chapter will list that why an Indian astrologer shall be bothered about this calendar reforms or not when it comes to following the Indian astrology. Chapter 22 is listing about the road ahead, which I'm writing a new book, and this book will be, one would have to read this book to understand the second book as well, because I am not going to stop, and the next book would list many more findings in the future. This book, as many of you know, that it's available online at Scriptd. Maybe I will add more links in future. Maybe I would make it available on the other platforms also. In fact, I am open to even any publisher who wish to publish this book in print, because people have written to me and requested me to give me a hard copy, and I can understand that how difficult it is sometimes to read online. But given the choice, because I'm not this is my maiden book, so it would take time for people to understand. In fact, there have been some experienced astrologers who are taking time to read the book, because this is the book which is challenging all the old and new minds, that why this type of subject shall also be studied if you really want to understand Indian astrology in depth. So this book is available at this link. Anyone can go and read the complete book just by spending the nominal price, which is very cheap, I would say, considering the opportunity cost and the hard work involved. Thank you very much, and thanks for your patience in listening this. Thanks a lot.